It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, so I mentioned the pension. The pension or national superannuation. It's really simple and easy to understand. It's a really easy concept. It's paid to everybody once they turn 65. So every New Zealander at 65, no matter how rich, no matter how poor you are, no matter how much money you have or assets you have, no matter what, if you've worked or if you haven't worked, doesn't matter. If you've been on the dole your whole life, everyone in New Zealand at age 65 gets it. It's hugely expensive as a universal benefit. It costs tens of billions of dollars each and every year. And each year the costs balloon even further. And well, basically because more and more New Zealanders are ageing. We have an ageing population. It's a ticking time bomb and it's getting worse. The numbers of New Zealanders turning 65 in the next 30 years will see costs double. But the government isn't getting richer, so the costs just balloon. But where's the money coming from? How on earth does the government pay for this? It can't. And it can't keep borrowing its way through these crises, which now seems entrenched. It's simply not sustainable in its current settings. And not given the long-term state of the government's finances, which I knew were bad, but increasingly a picture is being painted of the government books as being awful. And they appear to now have these structural deficits for the years ahead. We are borrowing to live in New Zealand now. The government spending has simply got out in front of where it should be and what we earn. And if we're honest, we're no longer paying our way. We are borrowing to keep the lights on, and no one thinks that's sustainable. So what has to change? Well, today, this is crucial. The Government Chief Economic Advisory Service, that's the Treasury, has this morning floated the highly controversial idea that one of the options to try and get on top of these massive costs of New Zealand superannuation is by means testing it. Means testing are two words that send the spookers up the backsides of those close to retirement. Means testing means if you've already got assets or savings or you're comfortable, then you may not get New Zealand super or only get a part payment. Heavens, you thought it was an entitlement and a right. Many New Zealanders would see this as unacceptable and a breach of contract, of breach of good faith. And they'd likely push back pretty hard against whoever pushed for this change. I do note the Treasury's pushing this at the moment as an option, not Luxon and not Nicola Willis, so the politicians' hands are off it. This is death knell politics. It's crucially needed, but who's going to sell this one? So the Treasury's floated it this morning, consciously, to sound out the reaction of Kiwis. In office, Bill English slightly increased the age of eligibility, so we qualified for it slightly later. For me, I would have got it at 65 and a half under National's rules. But Labor came into office and took it back to 65, ignoring the problem is not the answer, but that's what they did. And so Dominic Stevens from Treasury put many options forward, reducing the amount paid to each Kiwi, paying it later, pegging back the annual increases. But by far the most controversial idea was when the words means testing slipped out of his mouth this morning. National tried this in the early 90s, but earlier they'd promised no ifs, no buts, no maybes. It wouldn't happen. And then they tried it. And so it meant decades of mistrust was to come around superannuation, you see. John Key ruled out changes, and so has Labor, but only for political reasons. And it was largely dishonest, but Key did it because he needed to show people he could keep his word and be trusted. Labor's not touching it because it's economically illiterate and not being honest about the problem, you see. Means testing could come in many forms, but it simply means those who already have private savings, could be me or you, or those who have assets, or both, may find it means tested, and they don't qualify for the pension at all. They may not qualify for any of it. That's at the extreme. So those people who have done the right thing their whole life under a means testing scenario could finally miss out. So they've done all the savings, they've taken all their good advice, and then they miss out because the government deems them as having saved. I reckon this is where it's heading. 2 million people with KiwiSaver accounts, we're all savers. You think we can get the pension? Many would be angry and feel like it was a breach of a social contract, and many would feel penalised for doing the right thing. I wonder if those with KiwiSaver accounts will be deemed to have saved, so would be means tested. And those Kiwis without KiwiSaver, will they get the pension? It's been floated before, but boy, that would be controversial, wouldn't it? It's such a sensitive subject that, do note today, it's not being made by any elected politician making a case for this. It's a faceless official who does not rely on the public's vote, but it's been carefully and consciously done. They just put it out there. So what does Christopher Luxon say about all this? He'd have to take a position at some stage, but given he's stumbled and fumbled his way into the privatisation debate, he'll need to be pretty careful and nuanced about this one, I would have thought. It's a highly controversial addition to the economic debate around New Zealand right now. But the truth is this country has deficits for the foreseeable future, and the costs are not getting smaller. We're about to be hit with this ageing population. A massive ageing population bubble's about to hit us, people like me, and that's a ticking time bomb. So what do we do? Sitting still ignores the problem. Signalling early and doing something gradual probably feels right. It's better than knee-jerk and late, which throws everybody in the retirements take decades to save for and plan for. So the sooner our politicians are willing to engage honestly, put on some big boy pants. Come on, guys, just be honest about it. Far too many politicians are ass-covering, not wanting to upset anyone or see their salary and job come under threat. So they say nothing. What a waste of space. We need honesty in this debate. We need courage. And we need to address the fact that our economy is stumbling. Government finances are in trouble. And the big ageing population is fast coming. It's an ugly picture. So who's going to have the courage to lead this debate and push for change? Does anyone in the New Zealand Parliament care to kick this off? Or are you already frightened of the consequences? Honestly, are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? It might be the latter one.
Duncan Garner, live.